For today's Artist of the Week, we are going to be talking about Andy Warhol. Andy was born August 6, 1928 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So he's another American artist. And in the 20th century is when the bulk of his work was created. So a 20th century artist. He was a child of Czechoslovakian immigrants, and when he was a kid, he got sick a lot. So he spent a lot of time at home, and when he was sick, his parents fed him soup from Campbell's soup cans. A lot of times when you're sick, chicken noodle broth is really good for your immune system. He had a very specific nervous system disorder that caused his sickness. And another thing that he did to pass the time during the time that he was at home is his mother would give him drawing lessons. So that was something she did to keep him busy. He always loved to draw, but wasn't necessarily super interested in the arts, but liked to draw. He did read a lot of comic books, specifically DC Comics, and various celebrity magazines. He had an obsession with Shirley Temple. She was kind of considered the beginning of the whole pop art, pop culture immersion. So pop art, again, is like anything that's in the media, celebrities, athletes, names that are well known. Shirley Temple during that time was a famous pop culture artist. She was a little girl who did a lot of like singing and dancing in movies and things like that. In his early career, he started making portraits of people at a young age and would sell them for a quarter. He graduated from Carnegie Institute, where he took free art classes there. And this is where he created his first big work, the image that you see on the right. Now, it may not seem like much to you, and it may be wondering, like, why is it just a kid picking their nose? As he titled it, "The broad face gave me my face, but I can pick my own nose." But he didn't necessarily do this as like saying like this is my best piece of art type of thing. He did it as a controversy piece, which got a lot of people talking, hence it was rejected, but it got a lot of attention, which was what he was going for. He almost became an art teacher. So he did start to study to become an art teacher. He even went as far as applying to different places and high schools to become a drawing art teacher, but it didn't work out for him. He was never accepted or got a call back for any interviews. He moved to New York City to then become a commercial artist. So that's what he was gonna give a try to after being an art teacher didn't work out. He did land a commission by Glamour magazine right away. So at that time, Glamour magazine was a pretty popular magazine that focused on fashion. So he landed a job there. And when he got his first spread there, which you see on the right, which were shoes, the magazine made a typo and they spelled his name as Andy Warhol. His actual real given birth name is Andy Warhola with an A at the end. But he decided after seeing that in the print in the magazine that name made more sense. So he decided to drop the A and change his last name to Warhol. He became well known for his commissions in magazines. So this was something that he became quite good at, and a lot of magazines wanted him. Some places where his work is featured were Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, The New Yorker, and Vanity Fair. He did advertising for different window displays, and again, that may not seem like much now, but back then, that was a huge deal. People were out and about shopping and strolling the streets. That's how they looked to see what they wanted to buy, was they would literally go window shopping. He received a first prize for his Coca-Cola bottle display, like you see on the right there. So Coca-Cola hired him as a commission to create logos and templates like that you see on the right. And he made paintings of comic book characters, Campbell's soup cans, Coca-Cola bottles, vacuum cleaners, and hamburgers. So the picture on the right is called 3 Coke bottles. He also used a lot of bright, vivid colors to paint portraits of celebrities like Marilyn Monroe, that you see on the right, Elizabeth Taylor, Mick Jagger, and Mao Zedong. He painted Marilyn right after her death. So this picture right here, he used for a lot of his portraits where he would take the same picture and repeat it, but just change up the colors in the background. In the 60s, he began using ads and comic strips in his paintings. He created large-scale paintings using a projected image of his drawings. That way he was able to do the same picture over and over and over again, and he used that technique with his Campbell soup can images. In 1962, he started something called silk screening, which I briefly mentioned earlier this week. It's where you have a frame and like a silk screen in between, and then you have your design in the middle, and it's kind of capped off where it's like a stencil basically. And so anywhere where the ink is transferred through there, it goes through the area that is not like blacked out basically. So the ink can only go through certain areas. So it's where you transfer the image into a screen and apply ink with a rubber squeegee, which is what you saw in the next picture. These methods allowed him to repeat the process many times, allowing for mass production. So that's how a lot of times money was created way before the printing presses, newspapers, and like I said, today people still use it for t-shirts. His first print, which was called $201 bills, was done in 1962, and he did this because he loved money, and he loved fame. He wanted to be well known. So again, that's what the silkscreen process looks like. Pop art took off, creating consumer goods, so things that people bought, and commercial items. He bought a studio in 1964 and called it The Factory. And he worked on a painting of 400 flowers there, as well as many other types of consumer goods and commercial items within his paintings. He had the ambition to become famous and wealthy one day. He also loved to create movies and developed kind of a cult following. So you know how like Taylor Swift has her Swiftie followers? I wouldn't say his population of followers would be that big, but it was somewhat similar. He was an icon during that time that a lot of people looked up to and idolized. So he had his group of followers that really enjoyed his work and everything that he produced. He died at 58 after complications from a gallbladder surgery, and he's remembered today as a leader of the pop art movement in the 1960s here in the United States. All right, a short little video explaining a little bit more about what pop art is.
These are 4 of my favourite things. Bananas, my red coat, tomato soup, and comic books. But what do they all have in common? 2 little words. Pop and art. Pop art is more than an art movement. It's a lifestyle, a craze, a way of looking at the world. But what is pop art? Pop is young, bold, and fun. This is life in the 40s. It's a bit grey. In the 50s, people wanted plastic and glamour. They wanted to have a good time. Buy more, spend more. Don't just watch TV, be on TV. Now you can listen to the Beatles and Elvis, watch cartoons, eat popcorn, drive cars, and become famous. Now it was pop art, all about culture. After all, pop art is popular art, art for all. But who were the pop artists? Richard Hamilton, this guy, said pop art was low cost, young, witty, glamorous, and mass-produced. Hamilton made collages using imagery he found in glossy magazines. Lifting images from films and advertising was completely bonkers at the time. This is one of the famous Marilyn portraits by Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol. This guy. See, a cool guy. For Andy, art was a product. The same as a production line of Coca-Cola bottles or Camel soup. He liked to use bright colours and silk screening techniques to produce art on a huge scale. Pretty clever, I'd say. Pop art is revolutionary! Pop artists were competitive. Who could do what first? Warhol had his advertising. Liechtenstein had his comic books. Pelosi had his collage. And Minnie Mouse. Wait, let's go back to Liechtenstein. He used Band-Aid dots to make his artwork look like comics, like the ones you get in newspapers. Female artists were also rocking the pop art trend. This is The Only Blonde in the World by English painter Pauline Botti. Pauline added fun into her art and was a bit of a rebel. Girl power, Pauline. Pop art came out of the gallery too. Nicola L. took this big red coat around the world to get people to get involved with her performance. This made a real pop crowd, not the celebrity faces in other forms of pop art. Pop art can also be found all over the world. In Iran, Parviz Tanavoli was a sculptor and painter. Like other pop artists, he made his art out of things that looked like they could be thrown away. In New York, Jean-Michel Basquiat remixed sticks with hip-hop and street art. Pop is on TV, on the radio, and on the internet. Like right now. Does that mean I'm pop art? Well, there's one thing Andy Warhol and I can agree on. I don't know where the artificial stops and the real starts.
Okay, so he is famous for saying, in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. And there you see him in front of some of his paintings. Notice the really bright, vivid colors. Here's one of his paintings titled Orange Prince. This was done in 1984. Banana in 1967. The Super Dress, so made a dress out of Campbell's soup can labels in 1965. Self-portrait photography. Shot Maryland's. Reigning Queens. And Pete Rose. That is it. So tomorrow we will have our Kahoot game over Andy Warhol.